Hello and welcome to Foreign Guy in the Barangay. It's been a while. I'm sure you all laid awake at nights over the past year or so, staring up at the ceiling and wondering to yourself, whatever happened to that wonderful, handsome and witty fellow from the Foreign Guy in the Barangay YouTube channel? Well, wonder no more, dear viewers, because I returned. Because finally, there's some news. I appear to be on a slope. Just bear with me. Yes, finally, there's some good news. Something in the way of forward motion. Long overdue forward motion. Let's have a recap. Not a kneecap, a recap. We bought some land, my lovely Filipino wife and I. We bought it way back in August 2023. I know that the horizon is all over the place. I'm sorry. Anyway, our land, it's 3,591 metres squared, more or less, of a hillside in Badiang near Sikatuna, Bohol, Philippines. I even released a video explaining how easy it is to follow a set list of easy as pie procedures in order to obtain your building licence. Very easy. More or less, it spelled out the 8 or 10 different stages from purchasing your lot, getting the title deeds and moving forwards with the aid of architects and structural engineers and whatnot and who not, to the stage where you have your building permit and can build your dream home in the Philippines. I might have been a little too confident in my assertions that it was an easy procedure, because so far, 21 months after we paid for the land, we can finally now confirm that we have moved forward at a rate of knots that makes Antarctic glaciers look like Speedy Gonzales. In short, in almost 2 years, we've got to the stage where we have achieved nothing more than getting the title document for the land. I'm not going to name names here, but the lawyer into whom we put our faith, our finances and our confidence, once he'd shared out the money we paid to the sellers and then took his own cut, put all the paperwork into his filing cabinet and promptly forgot all about us. Now clearly, being a placid, patient and easygoing chap, I never mentioned it to my wife. Well, not more than once a week anyway. And after a year, my passing comments to my wife had reached a stage where I was losing my usual saint-like patience over the entire affair and demanded, in no uncertain terms if you're familiar with the Anglo-Saxon vernacular, that she get in contact with the lawyer, tout suite, which she did to her credit. Now, the lawyer told her that he was waiting for her to pay the capital gains tax and the annual taxes on the lot. She took the opportunity to remind him that his instruction from us was to go to the Philippines tax collector and pay the taxes, and after reminding him that we'd sent them to him before we bought the land and had a receipt, with the loan of this money being subtracted from the final purchase price. Now, this is a little unusual, or perhaps it isn't in reality, but the 4 sons of the landowner between them didn't have that kind of money available, so we kind of lent it to them to get the deal done. We also had confirmation of this in writing. In a blinding flash of realization, he suddenly remembered, and with the assistance and persistence of a friend of ours paying him a regular visit to remind him, we managed to eventually encourage him to extract his finger from where he put it, extract the paperwork from where he'd put it, and stop scratching whatever he'd found in the aforementioned place, and finally submit the paperwork for transfer into our names. Now, in the Philippines, that entire process can take 5 years, so we were warned. But once again, aided by the same friend, we managed to get it all done within a matter of months. We owe her a slap-up meal. This burst of administrative activity coincidentally coincided with my wife visiting the Philippines on a family matter, and so as part of her journey back to the UK, she diverted, flew into Bohol, visited the aforementioned lawyer for the last time, took the title and gave a copy of the title to the architect. More about him later. She then flew back to Manila that night, then to China, and after a 9-hour sit in the airport, to the UK, arriving home to our front door some 54 hours after leaving her family's home in the north of the Philippines. Manny Pacquiao fears nobody, but he's a little bit worried about my missus. Me, she terrifies me, but I know where her ticklish spots are. On to our architect. We have a budding friendship with Matt and April, two Antipodean acquaintances, through their YouTube channel, The Grounded Nomads. Check it out. I've been following their channel as they've been documenting the build of their home, some 5 miles away from ours, from where ours will be, as the crow flies, which is apparently straight, or as an arrow. Anyway, crow or arrow, they're about 5 miles away, over a couple of hills or so. I got in contact with Matt and asked for the email and phone details of the architect and contractor they had used, and got in touch with him via email. Now, you might be aware, if you've followed any of the other videos, that I bought some plans from Etsy and then adapted them in my own semi-educated fashion to suit the land, the desire to be off-grid, to minimise the day-to-day running costs, and to personalise the house where we felt it was needed. And so, on our most recent visit to the Philippines in March of 2025, we met up with him and discussed what we wanted and gave him a copy of the floor plan. And I think some of it has got lost in translation or misunderstood in whatever fashion. Because what they've produced for us is similar to what we want, but not exactly what we want. And it is quite understandably of paramount importance that they get it spot on at this stage, or they'll be building a house that is the house of somebody else's dream and not ours, and wondering why we don't seem to be as delighted as they imagined we would be. So, I must remember that due to my inability to communicate with the architect in his language, Visayan, I'm forcing him to try to understand specific and detailed instructions as I speak with him in English, which is his second language, or maybe even his third. Rather than relying solely on an hour or two on site trying to communicate our specific requirements to him, and perhaps unrealistically expecting him to remember them verbatim, I'm going to travel over to Bohol and spend the best part of a week in his offices getting all the details across to him. It won't be cheap, but I believe that we'll end up viewing the trip as being an entirely justifiable expense and one of huge value, because it will have been instrumental in us getting everything exactly how we want it to be. I'm flying from the UK on May 29th, returning June 6th, so I'll be there on the 30th, and we'll have the 31st due to June the 4th to talk until he knows precisely what we want. To keep abreast of the journey, to get an updated view of how the house will look, to review the decisions that we've taken as far as the materials and methods we intend to incorporate, to understand how we want to build, to reduce the impact of the weather we will encounter over the years, and in order to follow the progress as we move forwards towards the day when we put the first spade in the ground and begin to build, you should subscribe. You might even want to join our Patreon for access to exclusive sneak peek content of what the plans will be for the future, and provide us with a little help in doing so. I think we're going to need it. And next week I'll be releasing the video which talks about how the house will look and the materials that we'll be using to build it, and of course the reasons behind those choices. I hope you'll join us. Take good care of yourselves. Goodbye.